Hey guys, Matt, Mike, IronTrap Garage podcast.
Hello.
We are doing our video podcast. I know it's very confusing, the audio video thing, but we do video podcasts every other Sunday and audio podcasts every Sunday. So,
And now
yes.
you can listen to all of them on YouTube.
Yes.
Mike was poking around and figured out that YouTube started offering like audio podcast type formats.
They have for a little while. I just didn't realize. I did some research, and there's a large portion of people that use YouTube music for their podcasts. So,
And we pretty quickly after you uploaded them, we had some comments from people that maybe just are older or just don't do the Spotify online listening thing.
yeah.
So we had people comment. They're like, "Oh, great! Now I can listen to these." So we apologize. They do show up as videos as well.
Yes.
So if you suddenly start getting notifications for a day that is not our normal Tuesday, Friday, Sunday deal, that is these podcasts. YouTube's just trying to notify as many people that we're putting up other content. So if you see one that's just the screen with our logo, it's a podcast audio only, so it may not be very fun to watch on your TV.
There will be no visuals, but they will be coming out. We have a backlog of audio only ones that have not gone up on YouTube. So every Monday, there will be an audio only podcast coming out until like the middle of March, because our one every other Sunday that we do normal video that Sunday. I don't want to put a podcast video out as well to mess that algorithm stuff up.
I'm already confused.
Yes.
So I'm sure they are.
Every Monday, there should be a new podcast to listen to.
So they're equally as interesting. Some of the audio only podcasts we're doing more like motivation, not motivational, but just like
Stuff that doesn't have good visuals, essentially.
a lot of it's more like discussion topics about the hobby or about. We just did one that resonated, I think, with a lot of people. We got a lot of comments on it. Was talking about how do you get motivation.
Yes.
To especially during the winter time to work, and we had a lot of people that were like, "Man, this gave me motivation." Us talking about or doing some of the tips that we gave. So those are fun to listen to. And then we're doing these visual one like today. All the Black Friday stuff shipped.
Yeah, Black Friday, all the pre-order shirts shipped. There will be, probably after the first of the year, I'll put up the remaining stock that we ordered extra because of shipping problems and people ordering the wrong sizes and that kind of stuff. So after the new year, we'll put up a formal announcement that the remaining are up on the website.
And we probably will have some calendars because I saw the stack for friends
Yes.
and family is still. We always buy a bunch of extra of those too. So we always get people that miss the calendar
Yeah.
or blah 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 are bummed. So we have a little bit of that stuff. We always save it for shipping errors, but we will have calendars potentially because we don't want to throw any away. So we may
Not many, 5 to 10.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
if we make a formal announcement, pay attention.
Yeah, you didn't get one, get on it, and definitely watch the website. Otherwise, that's pretty
About
much
it,
all the bookkeeping
Yeah,
stuff.
nothing too crazy. We're rolling into Christmas, so we're kind of slowing down a little bit.
And we have the if you're local, we have the Allentown.
Oh yeah, I forgot about
indoor flea market is the second week in January.
that. I'll pull the dates up right now. Give me 1 sec.
But the Carlisle, the people that put on Carlisle, they've been for a number of years now putting on the Winter Rama or whatever they call it. It's a indoor swap meet or flea market at the Allentown Fairgrounds. It's the same place where they do the dirt drags the EJ and crew puts on. There's a wintertime flea market. A little bit of outdoor vendors depending on the weather. There's sometimes none. There's sometimes a bunch. But the indoor flea market is usually the building's full. It's a good time just to, like all these indoor flea markets that you see around the country. They're not necessarily like groundbreaking for finding great stuff, but it's a good excuse to get out and hang out and walk around and talk to people.
Yeah,
So,
we'll have T-shirts and sweatshirts there. It is January 17th to the 19th, the third weekend in January.
yeah, so we will be there.
Yep.
Set up and hanging out. I usually try and come Friday afternoon till close, and then I come Saturday all day
Yeah.
till close. Sunday we sometimes do, sometimes don't set up, so don't plan to come Sunday and see us. And then Mike is usually there Thursday and Friday for the most part.
Yeah, well, Thursday's set up, but I'll be there Friday. I think it opens at lunchtime. So I'll be there most of the day Friday and some of the day on Saturday. Try and shake hands and kiss babies.
Yeah, so Today's podcast topic we're going to do a series of these because there is so much storytelling to do. But a big one, and I know a lot of people that follow our channel found us because of this estate, and that is the Schroll estate. The Schroll estate, we did probably the estate that we've done the most number of videos.
Yeah, it also, the videos came out at like the perfect time too.
Yeah,
They dropped like right at the beginning of COVID.
Oh, true.
When everyone was stuck at home.
Yeah, that's true. So so the Schroll estate, if again, like a lot of these that we're talking about, if you haven't watched them, go back and watch some of those videos. Mike will put some links in the video description as well that you can watch.
Apologize, I've missed a couple of putting links. I had to go back. After someone left a comment, I was like, there's no links.
Yeah.
I will remember this time, I promise.
So the Schroll estate is, again, was one that was, it was kind of a fun time. I won't say it was early in the channel. It was just the channel was rolling pretty good. We had day jobs at that point. Andrew was working and helping in the shop, and he was just starting to drive. So it was kind of like a pretty monumental time in the channel. And I would say the Schroll estate was a big one for our YouTube that helped propel us to do this full time.
Yeah. It was also probably the largest one we've ever dealt with. Amount of stuff, 2 properties filled. There was a lot.
Yeah, probably quantity. It was one of the biggest, if not the largest.
Definitely for cars. I mean, there was like 50 some vehicles.
Oh yeah, that's true. It was biggest. Yeah, it was the biggest car one that we actually were able to do videos on and put out. But yeah, that estate, it was 2019 or 18.
2019, I believe.
2019.
This one actually moved pretty quick because I think you were out in November to look at it.
Yeah, so I think so yeah, I did a call. They emailed us.
I think we still have the emails. Let me look. I can pull up dates.
Yeah,
Give me a sec.
That is cool. So it was, I believe it was 2019. And we got an email, like a lot of these, they start with email. So I don't remember exactly how they found us, but through our videos, and it was been the whole mastermind of the channel was the SEO stuff, the search results, us just pounding videos on early Fords and barn finds and all that kind of stuff helps us on Google. And when your average person searches, they find us, and we're ranked at the top, which is what all these years of work. Now that we're kind of at the top, I can talk about it. I can give away the secrets. But yes, that's one of our secrets is me working in the marketing realm at Eastwood for all these years. I learned a lot about search engine stuff and keywording, and we were able to rank high. So the gal that contacted us, she sent an email and said, "Hey, I'm involved in this estate or executress, and there's a lot of cars and stuff, and I don't know what to do. We're overwhelmed, blah, blah, blah." Typical email. We wanted to see if you guys knew anyone or if you could help with identifying some of the stuff or whatever. So obviously it piqued my interest.
Just a tiny bit. And
I remember I was in the shop and I called her because she wasn't real. I don't think it was, I may forget, but I don't think she was real specific on what was there.
I couldn't find the original email.
And I call, and I remember I had this little scrap of paper, and I was in the shop downstairs. We only had the downstairs shop. And I got a little scrap of paper I ripped off, or an envelope, and I was ready to write down notes about it. And I remember as I was writing, I was like, I need a bigger piece of paper. Oh, I need a bigger piece of paper. So she's, calls me. And basically the short story is she said, my uncle passed away a couple years ago or whatever it was.
Larry passed away, I think, in 2016.
Yeah.
But he gave everything to his wife.
His wife took over and she continued to live at the house.
And then she died at some point in
18 or something.
Yeah, because they were dealing with other stuff with the estate for a year or two before we got involved.
Yeah, so she said basically that her aunt had passed away. Her and her cousin were basically set to handle both of their estates, or the overall estate, and they were totally overwhelmed because Larry had been a massive collector, but they had never had kids. He was kind of secretive, what
Yeah.
we learned over the years. And no one really fully knew how much he had because he just did his own thing and bought.
The
and bought and
family
bought.
didn't even know.
Yeah,
Like,
they didn't really. I think they all kind of knew that he had cars and stuff, but they didn't understand that to what magnitude.
Yeah.
So they finally get involved in this estate, and they're working on going through the house, and they get the keys, and they find out, oh, there's another property, that's an old service station or garage,
Yeah.
and they start walking in these buildings, and it's like, holy crap! So she basically said, at this point, I wish I remembered her name.
Jody.
Jody, that's it. Dang.
It was Jody and Dave were the two cousins,
Yes.
and there was 18 cousins, I think, roughly.
Yes, there was a.
It was a big family.
Yeah, so they, the two of them were basically picked. I think Jody was a school teacher,
Yes.
and Dave was in the work for a law firm or
Yep.
something. So they were like, I think the aunt picked them because they were the two like most trustworthy and had their shit together,
Yeah.
basically. So the two
Sorry
of
to
them,
the rest of the family. We don't know if that's true.
we
or
don't
not.
know you all, but it sounded like they were the two best picks.
Yes.
And for, just from the outside looking in, someone that works at a law office and a school teacher sound like two
Yeah.
pretty honest people,
Yes.
and also people that understand law and estates
Yeah.
and different things like that. So also her being a school teacher, she was like, out of all the estates we've done, I think she was the most organized person
Yes.
we've ever dealt with. So like
And she might have been the nicest.
she was
the
biggest,
like the
Well,
sweetest lady to
we've
deal
had
with.
some really nice
Yes,
people, but
I
she was-
definitely.
she was very, very nice. And Dave was also very nice. But she was like, she called me and said, okay, I'm trying to go through everything and figure it out. And she starts listing off. She's like, we're trying to find titles and paperwork. And she's like, we can't identify all these cars
And keys.
and keys. And she basically told me over the phone, like, we've already had a couple of auctions. And they sold I wish we were involved earlier.
Yes.
And I remember the auctions because I saw them, but I didn't go to them. And they had a fire truck, like a 50s. No, it might have been 30s or 40s.
Yeah.
I think it was Ford.
We got some photos of they were in the service station garage before we got involved.
Yeah, so there was a huge fire truck, full-size fire truck. And then there was, I think, an Indian. Or
No, early Harley.
early Harley, like 20s Harley. They went to auction. I think they sold some guns.
They sold a ton of guns. They found in the basement there was a couch, and it looked like piles of newspapers. And as they started to clean newspapers off, they found guns. And then you take the
Antique
guns,
rifles
and then there's more newspaper, and it was like just stacked. They were hidden all over the house. They had an entire auction of just guns. That's how many they found in the house.
So they had some auctions with that kind
Oh,
of...
hit miss engines too.
Yeah, yeah. So I think that might have been with the motorcycle and stuff.
Yeah.
So they had found an auctioneer, and they had already started the process. The difficult thing for us, anytime we get a phone call and an auctioneer is involved, we have to be very careful because if they've signed contracts, we cannot get super involved.
Yeah.
Because depending on the verbiage in the contracts they've signed, whether it's the whole entire state or they've just signed a contract to do the motorcycles or the guns, so I'm speaking with her. I'm like, okay, well, what kind of contract did you sign or what's going on? She's like, we've agreed to sell all the cars. And she basically said, in a nice way, because she was is a extremely nice person, that she didn't get the feeling that the auctioneer knew a lot about cars or was going to do their due diligence with selling the cars. And she had a feeling that stuff wasn't going to sell as well as she was hoping, or, the parts and all the stuff. I think the auctioneer was just honest
Yeah.
and basically said, like, hey, like, we don't know a lot about antique cars. We have a great following. They were great at advertising for their auction hall and all that stuff. But they just didn't know about the cars. So they're just going to advertise them as whatever they are. And that's So she kind of got us and, called us. And she starts listing off all the cars. And there's, like, such variety.
It was a very crazy collection because there was no rhyme or reason.
No.
Year range. It was, teens to the 80s and everything in between you can imagine.
And it was a lot of them wherever. Some of the cars were just like everyday cars, and just like,
Yeah.
would have been an everyday car back then. But she's going through, and there's just, a lot of your typical stuff. There was a bunch of Mustangs. There's some 70s cars.
4-door 50s cars.
4-door 50s cars. There's, there was a Falcon. She's listing cars off, and she starts telling me, and then the part that piqued my interest, then she's like, oh, there's a 49 or 50 Merc that's got like flames on it, is all customized or whatever the terminology she uses, modified. And street rod, she used the term street rod because a lot of people know that, but street rod is used for if you're not into cars, people use street rod as just a term for any modified car. And she's saying there's Model A's and different stuff. And then the part that started piquing my interest is she's like, well, there's some like old race cars or jalopies or, she's like, I don't even know if they're parts cars or what they are. And she said that we can't find titles for them. And she's like, they're not even whole cars. And like we've learned over the years, I've definitely learned, is like when you're dealing with people that aren't car people and they're handling an estate, they just don't even know what to make. Like the hot rods that we're into that don't have fenders, it's just like headlights and an engine. If you don't know any better, you're like, that doesn't even look like a whole car. So she's like, I'm like, huh? Well, what is it? She's like, well, I don't know. There's like, I think there's like, they're like old race cars or something. She's like, but parts of the car are missing, and she's trying to like describe it to me. The one I think has like a racing engine because it's got like 3 carburetors on it, and some guy told me that that's a racing intake or something. I'm like, that sounds interesting. I definitely would love to get some photos or whatever. And I think she sent us some photos.
Okay, I couldn't remember.
Yeah, she definitely sent us some Yes, she sent us some photos of what she had taken, and after I talked to her, and I'm like, my mind's like going nuts. I think Jason Moss was even here the day that I talked
possibly
about it. And he's coming this weekend, oddly enough. Our friend Jason used to come over a lot from Jersey and work in the shop with me. And my mind's like racing because it's like all the cars she's describing. And then she starts talking about like, race cars or jalopies, and they sound like they're old hot rods and whatever. And then she gets us photos, and because I remember the one, the Schroll Coupe.
Don't give it away. Don't give it away.
Give it away. I remember that one. She's like, I don't know what it is, if it's a Model A or a Model T. It's some kind of old coupe Ford. I'm like, okay, well, coupe and modified hot rod or jalopy sounds really neat. And
even when you just hear that when we do these estates, we always know there's more. Very rarely does somebody give us a list or tell us, and that's everything. So it's like
she was pretty forthcoming. She's like, these are just the cars that like we could find titles for. She's like, there's cars like in the corner that we can't get to. I don't know what they are.
But it starts your wheel. You're like,
everywhere.
It's got a 32 coupe. And possibly a 32 coupe.
She didn't even know what.
What else is there?
Yeah, she's telling me there's Model A and Mercury and Cadillac and all this stuff, and I'm like, oh man,
all the right keywords to pique Matt's interest.
So she sends some photos, and she sends a photo, I guess, before they pulled the
fire truck
out, and I'll never forget it. The one photo is from behind of the Schroll car, garage door closed or whatever. And you could see Pontiac taillights. The car's covered in junk.
There's ladders on it.
There's like ladders on it, and you could just see the back of the trunk and the Pontiac taillights and the roll pan. And then you could see that there was like reversed wheels or something on it. And man, I was like losing my mind because I saw that. I'm like, it's a 32. The Pontiac taillights.
And at this time, you didn't own a single 32 at all.
Yeah, the Schroll car is my first 32. So I was like really like zooming in on the photos and looking at it, studying it, and like, oh my God. And I think she might have sent another photo from the front, and there's junk on it, and you could see there was an Olds engine in it. And I was like, oh my God, this is like amazing. And license plates laying on the cow and junk in it and stuff. So then it was kind of like a back and forth a bunch of times. We'll see when we can get time. And she said that, I think that she was saying that they were trying to sell some of the properties and get them cleaned up and sold. And like that next spring and whatnot, they were going to start selling cars. Mm-hmm. So I was doing so it's outside of York, York, Pennsylvania is where the estate was. And I was doing I used to do these wintertime demos. Eastwood sets up in the York Fairgrounds every year around Christmas time. They do these like pop-up stores, and then I used to do like demos at the stores on a weekend during it once a year. So I was going out for the demos, and I kind of said to her, "Hey, I'm already going to be at the York Fairgrounds. I'm doing a demo with the company I work for. Blah blah blah. If you're interested, I could come. I'll already be out that way. We can come over." So they picked me up and then drove me over there, and it was maybe only like 15-20 minutes.
Do you remember what building you went to first? Was it the house or the service station? And also, we should say the service station was like a folklore in that area because people would drive by and see stuff and look in, and no one really knew what was there, but everyone knew there was something there.
Yeah, he didn't really open the doors much.
And he would hide from, if you pulled up and he was cutting the grass, he would pull the tractor and close the door and just hide in there till you left.
Yeah, we heard a lot of stories after we started getting involved and when we were pulling the cars out. Neighbors were stopping by, locals were stopping by, and people were telling us like, "Man, I used to, whatever." And he did not want the attention.
Yeah.
So
and his building was at the worst spot for attention. It was like on a main road.
Man, I'm trying to remember which we went to first.
I think the house is closer to the fairgrounds, so you might have went there first.
Yeah, I don't remember, to be honest. That I'm really jogging my memory, but I don't.
And also, you went like in the wintertime after a demo, so it was got dark quick then.
Yeah. So we were, because we didn't have a lot of time. So we might have went to the garage or the old service station first. I don't remember, but I remember going to those, and it was just like all I can really remember, because it's a blur because we did so much with that estate. All I can remember is that overwhelming feeling of holy shit. I mean, there's a feeling when you find this stuff that is like, it's like you're chasing a high, because that anticipation, knowing that there's cool stuff. They got the keys. We pull up to the place. It's an old service garage, and it's kind of run down looking, but it's whatever. And they open the door, and you're just like, that first like greet of the door, and then there's cobwebs, and you're just like, let me see if I could find the lights, and you can just see shadows. Insane.
I've never done drugs, but I can imagine that's the high that people chase when they do drugs.
I'm definitely chasing that all the time.
Yes.
That's what the business is chasing that high and still affording to live.
It's very similar to using drugs.
Yeah, it is pretty bad. So I remember just going through there, and it was like, all I wanted to do was see that 32, because that was the one I was locked on trying to get. And we just like walking in there and looking around. It was just like,
was the fire truck was already gone?
They already had that auction. That stuff was pulled out. And walking through there was just like, holy crap. And I think I was taking a lot of notes then, because then it was very obvious that they were overwhelmed. They didn't know how to handle, like the auctioneer said they would auction the cars off. But I remember her telling me the auctioneer just wanted to do an auction on site where the cars sat as they sat, and just point and say, you're getting this car, this is the bidding, let's go. And her Jody and Dave already kind of knew that was, they already had a feeling that wasn't really going to be the best way to sell them. So we're walking around there, and I'm like explaining to them, I'm like, some of these cars are really cool, and they're actually in good shape, but like they're covered in rat shit and dirt. It's like, you may want to clean some of these cars up. Some of them are actually maybe worth more with the barn dirt on them, so she's taking me around, and there's the ones that stick out. It's obviously the 32. I was just like, holy crap, looking inside of it. It had the square roll bar, and you could see it was crude, you could see it was a little rough, but it was cool. And it's a 32, and it was an old hot rod, and I was just like, I was like smitten with that thing as soon as I saw it. I was like, this is cool. But I remember the Corvette was really interesting, because that was like what she listed that off. I think it was a 54.
First year was 50. Yeah, so it was 54.
54, and I remember her listing that off, and it's like, whoa, that's can be a valuable car. I remember looking at it, it was like cool, but it was really
that would have been a good one to hot rod.
Yeah, and it was already, I think,
it had a small block in it.
Yeah, and the hood was cut. But I remember her mentioning they had someone from the like AACA come through and like like a friend of a friend
Yeah.
and like look at the cars or appraise them or whatever. And this is one of these instances where having different points of view is really important on these estates. So this guy looked at it and was kind of like, that Corvette's, not worthless, but a bunch of the stuff, because he's not into modified cars, like, oh, that's not worth anything. That's junky. That's, whatever. So they were like, kind of like, I think they thought the Corvette was going to be worth a ton. And then this guy came and looked at it and was like, oh my God, this thing's rough and blah, 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 and this and that. And the numbers matching, it isn't there and it's not the correct color. And
they only want perfect cars for the AACA.
And then I went and looked at it. I'm like, ooh, this thing's really cool. Like, it's one you can have fun with, blah, blah, blah. So they were, of course, trying to get values of stuff out of me. And it's like, hard to evaluate. But as we were going through, and then we went to the house and looked at everything, and it was just like, I'm seeing parts laying everywhere and stuff. And
that was the other hard thing about that estate. If they did the auction where it sits, all the cars were filled with parts.
Yep.
None of them had parts for the right car inside of them.
Yes.
As we started going through, we found stuff was just a mess. So if they would have sold as they sat, where they sat, it would have been, they definitely would have lost a lot of potential money because it just
definitely a disservice by doing it that way.
Major.
And it was like a lot of these auctions I've been to where they're like, oh, you get the car and everything around it in the corner. Where you're buying like a 50s Cadillac and there's a Model A engine and a flathead V8 and, the Corvette engine is sitting over by the Studebaker, and it's like, so it's better to take your time and go through and make sure the stuff's, and the other thing we were kind of discussing with them, I was talking to them about, is like, if you have an auction and the cars are all mixed up, like how they were sitting at the estate, you're not getting the right crowd there. And I've gone to auctions and like stole or bought cars really cheap because it's the only Model A or the only antique car in the auction, and everything else is 50s or 60s cars, so you don't have the right crowd. And I'm like, you really need to group the cars in the gear range or the type of cars.
Yeah.
Put all the modified cars and antique cars in one auction, the street rods and customs and hot rods, and you're going to get all that crowd there, and you have
along with those parts.
Yeah, along with those parts, and all those people are going to be there, and they're going to bid on it, and then all the 50s cars, and then the 70s and the whatever, all the Mustangs and muscle cars, put them in one auction, and you're going to have the right crowd there bidding on them and have the best opportunity to get the most money. So, I think the one difficult thing that was I was having when we were negotiating and trying to help the estate was they had a lot of people in their ears. They had a lot of people, and a lot of these estates do. There's people coming out of the woodwork. There's the friend of the cousin that says, "Oh, I'll come take all that stuff off your hands," or the auctioneer has a friend that is in the business and they're maybe trying to help them out. Oh, I got this person that's a neutral party
expert.
Yeah. And it's like the guy that's a friend of theirs that they try to get in. They get buy stuff, skim stuff off the top, and auctioneers, you could say you don't do it. You all fucking do it.
Yep.
I excuse my language. Every auctioneer, the only reason you're an auctioneer is to make money and also to get in first. Same reason we do what we do and buy estates.
We're just very upfront about it.
Very upfront. I want to buy everything because I want to get in there first and I want to get the best stuff. So auctioneers do the same thing. Come in, skim stuff off the top. They'll sometimes buy stuff ahead of time. They will know what's there. I've been to auctions where auctioneers, I'm not saying this auctioneer that did this estate's crooked or...
We're in the generalized portion of the podcast.
Yes. I've been to auctions where auctioneers most definitely will put a car or something in an auction and sell it at a poor time of day, or they'll wait till the end of the day, or they'll put the muscle car in a property auction and it's barely listed in the bottom of the thing. And that's because the auction, and it just happens that the auctioneer's cousin or friend buys the car. The employee, auctioneer themselves bought it, but they have their employee bidding on it. A lot of stuff goes down. So I was just trying to warn the family, like, I go to auctions religiously. I see a lot of stuff going on that happens. I'm not saying this auctioneer is doing that, but I'm saying that a lot of times, and we talked about another podcast, auctioneers can be lazy. or not put in the most effort. And it seemed that way with this auctioneer. They couldn't be bothered to do all the extra work. We'll sell it as is, where is, and and whatever. So I did go to the service station or the garage first, because we went to the house, and that's when we got to the house, and we were about to we got to the house, and she walked in and opened the house up. She goes, "Oh yeah, I found another car."
Oh,
or we found two more cars.
That's right.
I was like, "What?" She's like, "Yeah, we didn't really look in the house garage here, so it's like a little, I don't know if you want to call it a Cape Cod or whatever, but it's a little."
It was a ranch style house.
Ranch style house, and there's a 2-car garage attached to the house. And she's like, "Yeah, we found 2 cars since I talked to him." I'm like, "Found 2 cars?" She's like, "Yeah, the garage was filled with trash and junk and smashed beer cans and
soda cans.
Soda cans crushed, like thousands." And we have a photo. I think I have it somewhere.
It's on social media too. I'll definitely find it.
We'll drop it in here, but it's like Dave is standing on a dresser, and the soda cans crushed are as tall as the dresser, and there is a car next to it, and you can't see the hood of the car. There's that many soda cans thrown in and stuff piled and whatever, and he has a shovel, and he's literally shoveling the soda cans, crushed soda cans, out of there. So she's like, "Yeah, we found 2 cars." She's like, "There's a..."
It's a Nash Metropolitan.
That's it. Nash. I couldn't remember what that one was. There was a Nash Metropolitan.
That's why you couldn't see it, because the car's like this big.
Well, you couldn't see it in the other car.
I know.
So, and that's the angle the photo's taken in.
Yeah.
The other car, she's like, it's some kind of street rod. I think it's a Chevy, it's some kind of red Chevy street rod or whatever. She's like, "I don't really know what it is. We didn't look at it. We just found it and cleared everything out, or got, exposed it." I'm like, "Oh, cool." She's like, "So what do you want to see first?" I'm like, "Well, let's go see the 2 cars in the garage are right here." We walk through the house, open the door.
Now, was it totally clean? Like the cans and everything were gone?
Most of the cans were gone. I think that...
I mean, there was still a ton of stuff when
Yeah, I think all
there.
the cans were gone, actually. Yeah. And she's like... And she opens the door, and there's... As soon as she opens the door, there's no grill on it, but I instantly, I'm like, "That's a 33, 34 Ford." I'm like, "Holy crap." Red.
Oh, that's right. The grill wasn't on it. I forgot
Yeah,
about
the
that.
grill wasn't on it. The front end wasn't on it, really.
The radiator was there.
Yeah.
But nothing else. That's
Yeah.
right.
And I'm like, "Holy crap." And I could see the white interior. And you guys probably know where we're going with this. It ended up being what we called the Skelly 34 was sitting there. And I was like, again, just like the 32. And I should... So I was like, "Holy crap." I should take a step back, though. I forgot. The garage had that 34.5 window.
Oh, I totally forgot about that car. Yeah.
I forgot about it because we didn't get it. But
Yeah.
one of our customers or viewers ended up buying it, which was fantastic. In retrospect, they'd have another car that I would have been working on. But there was the other jalopy was a 34.5 window, old hot rod, channeled unchopped, just like the 32. That had a
Small block Ford
in it, pretty cobbled together.
Had wooden rockers. I remember you opened the door, and there was just pieces of wood that they shoved in there to take
cover
into
the
space.
frame. Yeah. And then there was some kind of car that was jammed in against the wall that they built a wall around. I forget what that car was. He put like a block wall up, and there was a car that was like a Fairlane or something. That was jammed in there. It was like, how did he get that? Well, he built the block wall up against the front of it and the side of it to close in.
There was a bunch of cars in that estate. I don't know how people got out of there, because they were jammed and wedged in these weird spots.
You had to winch them out. But we went to the house. 34 was there, and I'm like, there's still junk everywhere. I'm peering in. I'm like, oh, there's old pleated interior. This thing is killer, and it was in pretty decent shape. So I was really into that car. Then we went down to the pole barn, and it was just another holy crap.
And that pole barn was really cool to see because of the way it was down behind the hill. When you come up over the hill, you're like, oh look, it's a pretty decent sized pole barn. Then you get further up, and you're like, oh my, it's like a 7 or 8 bay. It's a big pole barn.
100 by something.
Yeah, behind this little tiny rancher. But the way it's positioned, you can't see all of it till you get down around. You're like, oh my God, this thing is huge.
And I think they said Larry bought that piece of land from the neighbor
From the farm. Yeah.
and he put the pole barn back there and was like, wait, you couldn't see it. There wasn't a driveway. It was like,
There was some stone off of this driveway up to the house. There was like a stone path.
oh, right.
But it was so overgrown you couldn't tell it was there anymore.
So it wasn't like, if you didn't know it was there, you never, unlike the other property, no one would know from the road. No one would be able to tell.
Not at all.
It was way hidden. There was the farm and the properties behind it. You couldn't really see it. So we opened that up, and that place was probably more overwhelming because it was better lit.
Yeah.
And there was just stuff.
And what's funny is Dave, the guy that was one of the executors, he helped Larry build it. It was like a block pole barn.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I didn't remember that.
He was a kid. Larry built it in like the 80s or 90s, and Dave was a kid or, young adult. And he remembers his dad helped Larry build the cinder block walls.
Wow.
And he remembers being involved with it. He's like, since I've been in it, the last time I was in it, it was totally empty when Larry built it. So there was like 30 some years of him never being in the building till after Larry's gone and they're dealing with the estate. So he's only ever seen it completely empty and packed to the absolute gills.
And then he eventually saw it empty.
Empty again, yeah.
Yeah, but I remember going in there. I was just like, oh my God, it's just like overwhelming. And that garage, for me, wasn't as exciting as far as cars go because the stuff that I'm into weren't as much in there.
Yeah.
The Mercury was in there, which was it looked to me like it was like a 70s or 80s era custom. It was chopped. The paint and bodywork was starting to fail a little bit. 289. The interior wasn't finished out real completely, but it was still cool.
Yeah.
It was like looked like your stereotypical lead sled type deal, and there was that like 35-36 pickup street rod thing.
There's two Chevys in there, yeah. Or
no, Ford.
Oh, the yellow one was a Ford. That's right.
Yeah.
I forgot about that. Yeah, it was 35, 36, 37, one of those pickups.
Yeah, there was a lot of the stuff he had bought was like we found out later was he was going to Carlisle heavily. And from what we understood, he was going to Carlisle with like a lot of money in his pocket, and he was buying multiple cars some years, but he was buying cars at every Carlisle spring, fall, and dragging them home. So a lot of this stuff was like probably, the guy that built it sold it, and the guy that flipped it sold it at Carlisle, and he bought it. And then, so a lot of this stuff had like, it was kind of dated. 70s.
A lot of shag carpet, a lot of A-tracks.
Yeah, so he was buying some cars that were built in the 70s and 80s and putting them in there.
What was interesting, though, is he was driving them for he'd buy them, say spring Carlisle, drive them for summer, and then they just get parked.
Yeah, you're right.
So, they had a title for the car that said he bought it in, 80. It had an 81 license plate, but the miles were only 200 more than what he bought it. So he drove it for a year, parked it, bought another car, drove that for a little, parked it.
That's right.
He was not driving them much or far, but he enjoyed them for a little tiny bit and then just parked them away forever.
Yeah, and some of them I think he drove more. Like there was in the house garage there was that 50s, like a 58 or 59 Chrysler.
Oh yeah,
that
Imperial.
Yeah, and that one a lot of people told us they used to see him drive that around and go places, and there was lanyards on the rear view for him going to swap meets or trade shows or whatever. So that one apparently he drove a lot, and then some of them it seems like the 34 Skelly car he bought in 70 something
71 I think,
and it still had that inspection sticker on it. And it seems like he barely drove it, and he pulled in the garage and started tearing it apart to get stuff re-chromed and redone, and it seemed like a lot of that stuff. A lot of the cars had things taken off of them or partially worked on, and he never finished. Say, pull a carburetor off a car or whatever, and there'd be a rebuilt carburetor in the trunk, but he just never bolted it on or whatever it was.
I would have loved to see what the pole barn at the house looked like before they started, because that's where a lot of the hit miss stuff was.
Yeah,
it was packed when we were there. So I can only imagine what
Yeah,
it
they
looked
did
like.
say they cleaned a lot out before we
Yeah.
had gotten there. So I don't think you probably couldn't even see all the
I
cars at
can
that
only
point.
imagine.
But yeah, we were like digging around and looking at stuff, and I
I
started.
was glued to my phone because I was at home or at work. Like, oh, I know Matt's going to this estate, and just any photos yet? You got any photos?
Hours of me being silent because
Yeah.
I'm just there going, "Holy shit!" You know. So I was I took some photos, and talking through them, and I kind of talked to them there like the stuff I just said, like where I was like, I think you should pull these cars out and group them together, and I wouldn't be so quick to just blow everything out in one auction
Yeah.
or a 2-day auction. I think you have enough stuff here to have multiple days and blah blah blah. And I basically said to her, I have interest in a couple of the cars and parts and stuff, and I would be interested in. We'll help you guys. We'll document it. And I kind of at that point we had put out the Packard video,
Yeah.
the Chrysler video had come out.
Yeah. The pulling out. I mean, there was a bunch of videos. The Surprise 39 had been out. All the cars we pulled out of the junkyard was out.
Oh, were they out by
Yeah.
then?
Yeah, that was like 18, 19.
Yeah, so we had some videos behind us. The channel was rolling good, and we had figured out that any barn find or hidden car videos for us were doing very well. So I was kind of like, it was nice because I had a leg to stand on. I said, look, I know if we put out videos and help you promote the auctions and this estate, we're gonna get hundreds of thousands of views over a bunch of videos, and some of them may even get hundreds of thousands of views on an individual video. And then if we're putting these videos that this stuff's getting auctioned off, we're going to get all your potential buyers following this. And kind of pitched it to them. They're like, okay. It was a lot for them to probably digest. And then we started talking about it, and I think I did some phone calls and emails leading up to it. And I basically was like, I'm interested in buying and that's always been my thing when we help out estates. Like some people might be trying to like weasel a free car.
Yeah.
And people probably think that this estate, even some of the local people probably think that, I got free cars out of the deal.
Or paid like $1.
Yeah. So I basically said I'm interested in 3 cars. Originally it was I wanted 3.
Yeah.
So I was interested in buying the 34 5-window, the 32 5-window, and the 34 2-door sedan. I was interested in buying those 3 cars, and we were going to shoot a bunch of videos for them. We were going to help promote. We were going to help pull the cars out. We were going to help identify and pull parts out. And pretty much through the whole auction process, we were going to help them. So I think the difficult problem was they also had the auctioneer on the other side knowing nothing about us. And
Yeah.
who are these guys that are the experts and these punks? They're really going to, they're going to get you all these views. I'm sure that's how it went from their end, which is valid because they had no clue. And kind of a unique thing, like let's use YouTube to promote an auction. Like nobody was,
Which everyone does now.
right.
But they were still kind of, I don't even think Vanderbrink at that point was doing
was doing it a
little bit, yeah.
Yeah, some. But not a lot of them were doing it. So I don't remember how it all went down, but basically we went through and a lot of back and forth, and then I think they were like, okay, well, we may be interested. What do you want to pay for the cars? And I don't specifically remember what I offered for each car, but I made some offers on the cars, also saying that we're going to help them and do all this promotion for free. We don't want anything out of it, our labor, our time, any of this stuff. And I made offers on it, and they actually, I think, were like, okay, that sounds pretty good. That's fair. And we were getting ready to figure out when we were going to start pulling the video and pull the first cars out.
Because the other end of it, to elaborate a little bit more, if we were to do it without getting those cars, we would have to get paid for our time for the promotion aspect of it as a promotional, thing. So you have to evaluate our time, and Matt broke it down of,
Well, I did that afterwards. I made the mistake of not. They didn't understand. They probably didn't understand or even think about that. Like, we were doing a service. Like, you contacted us. It wasn't like I'm not like a family member or a friend, and I'm doing this out of the kindness of my fucking heart. Like, you contacted me. We have a business. We're obviously the experts because we put videos out every week, about this stuff. So when I thought it was all going to happen, then she calls me and goes, "We have a problem," or whatever. The auctioneer has a non-biased expert that owns a vintage store, an antique store, or whatever, and they came out and looked at the cars, or looked at the photos or something, and appraised the cars you're interested in, and they're telling us that they're worth whatever. And to be honest, the appraisals were very. I agreed with the appraisals. And I said, "Yep, I agree. This car's worth whatever, $18,000 for the 32. I think that was the price it was, and the 34 was 15 or 17,000, and the 34 was worth 15 or 18,000, whatever, as they sat." And I said, "Yep, I agree with those prices." And I offered obviously significantly less than that, because
not crazy less, but a little bit less.
A little less.
Yeah.
And I said, I might have offered it might have been 20 for all the cars.
I think
I offered 20 for all 3 cars, and each car was worth about 5,000 more than what I would, so it was end up being it was 45 for all the cars or something like that, whatever it was. And I said, well, she was they were I think, I don't know if the auctioneer was kind of these guys are trying to rip you off, blah, 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 because they didn't understand what we were going to help them with. And when she called me, it was kind of now she was on edge, I'm trying to take something, take one over on them, blah, blah, blah. She might even sent me an email, too, about it. And then I was like, okay, well, I'm going to go fully professional on this. And I wrote an email, a long-ass email. It was
I remember it was long.
It was a long-ass email, and I wrote this, put on my, business hat. And I said, okay, I understand that you don't, like the numbers that we offered, and the cars are worth that, and blah, blah, blah. And I think the price they told me for the 34 was high, because I remember the 34 was maybe they said it was worth 20, and I'm I have a hard time believing that's $20,000 for that car. And I remember sending an email and said, okay, no problem. Here's the amount of views that we get on videos, and the amount of time that it takes to film a video. And if you put in 3 guys at this dollar amount per hour, for us to put out a promotional video, we would charge this much money, and that's under the market. If you call and ask a production company to shoot and produce a video to promote your auctions, and I wrote out this long thing and said, we'll put out this many videos, and this is the cost. And at the bottom I said, what we would charge to do all the stuff that we've talked about and you're asking us to do would be $50,000, whatever it was, between time, promotional fees, all the stuff. I don't remember the dollar amount, but it was more than what the cars were worth if we were actually going to count our time and the advertising done for that. And I said, I'm offering to pay you for the cars and give you all that work. So really, if we're valuing what we're doing for you, you're getting all this free promotion and also our help on identifying cars and parts and labor to pull the cars out. And I'm still paying you for the cars.
Yeah.
So in the end, we ended up negotiating, and I said, you know what, the 34, I'll take a chance on that.
Which I'm very glad, because I think that was probably going to be the worst one to pull out.
Yeah, and honestly, in the end, I don't know if I was as excited about that one. I think that one was less. And
to be completely honest, I don't know where the hell we would have put it in the shop, because it was that 20 early.
I didn't have room when we brought those 2 cars here. I remember I had the Schroll car up on the lift, a car underneath
the free T under it.
Free T under it.
Actually, no, the free T was on the lift, and the Schroll car was under it.
And the 34 was somewhere else. I don't remember.
It was tight, insanely tight.
So I basically wrote and I think they then understood when I wrote that. I made the mistake in the beginning of being very friendly and loose about everything and not really telling them. And I think they were just kind of these young guys are going to YouTube. They'll just do it for you. It's no, we understand our worth and our value and what we're doing, and this is what we would charge. It also helped. We did a promotional video for Make-A-Wish Foundation.
Yes.
As a production company.
Yep.
and it was just because they were local in the Reading area doing
Which
it.
was like a couple months, or maybe it was earlier that year.
Yeah,
but it was right around the same time.
Yeah, we did a Make-A-Wish Foundation. A friend of ours, Josh, worked for a marketing firm or promotion company, and he followed our channel, reached out to us, blah, blah, blah. He was helping us with some sponsorship stuff. And he said, hey, they're doing a Make-A-Wish thing. We're partnered with Make-A-Wish. Can you guys film a promotional video?
15 minutes from the shop,
yeah,
right down the street.
They're doing it for a Make-A-Wish thing for a child. And can you guys film a promotional video? So we brought like 3 of us, multiple cameras, GoPros.
Andrew was with us.
Andrew was with us. We actually dressed nicely and shot a promotional video, and they paid us. And he kind of was like, here's what we would normally pay a production company, and we came in a little under that. So like I already had like a foot to stand on because I knew roughly what he kind of told us what they would pay for a 5-minute promotional video.
Yeah,
we're offering to do like 30-minute videos.
7 of them.
Yeah. So that helped, honestly. And in the end, I think I came up a little on value, and I think I paid $10,000 a car.
Yeah, I knew that. I was waiting to see if you could remember.
Yeah, I paid $10,000 a car.
Which at the end of the day, those cars going to auction, they could have went for more than that guy evaluated them for, or on the wrong day, they could have went for way less.
I think if we weren't involved in the auction and the promotion of the sale, I think they would have went for less.
Definitely.
I don't think they would have went for...
Especially the 34, because like all this, we found a bunch of shit for that car all over the estate. So you buy that in a garage, it's missing the hood, it's missing the grill, it's missing all these important parts. That value tanks really quick.
Yeah, the red 34 would have went for nothing near what...
Probably 5 to 6.
Yeah. So the thing I did is I came up on the value, but I made the caveat to them. I said, all the parts that are missing, because that was my other argument with them. They're like, oh, it's worth $18,000. I said, yeah, if it has the grill, the hood.
Because the 32 was also missing the grill too.
The grill, and it was the headlights were missing and some other stuff.
All the garnish molding, everything.
Yeah. So I kind of said like, yes, they're probably worth that, but where are all the expensive parts that are missing? Well, they're probably here because we found photos of these cars complete from 70 whatever, 60 whatever. And I said, well, we're evaluating the car on parts that aren't on the car. How can I do that? So I came up on the value to $10,000 a car, and I said, the caveat is, as we're pulling these cars out and cleaning up the estate, I want the parts for my cars. If we can verify, if we find a red 34 hood, and this car's missing a hood, it's obviously for this car. If we find a grill for this car, then it's for my car. So they agreed to that. And I said, then I'll come up in value, and we're still going to do all this,
free labor, essentially.
Free labor and free advertising and marketing. And they agreed upon it. And in the end, it worked out, and it was really good. And that was mostly true. We started clearing the cards out. I mean, we're going to do a couple on this estate, but like to fast forward a little bit, it ended up working out pretty well because we ended up finding a lot of parts. They found old photos of the Schroll Coupe from like when he got it in like 64 or 2. I forget.
Didn't he buy it in the 50s?
No, it was 60.
60 or 61, yeah, that's right.
Something like that. We had photos from his parents' house when he bought it, him sitting in the engine bay. Like, we have all these great photos. But I was able to go on those photos so that, because they were dealing with so many members of the family, and once we got involved, then members of the family that were money hungry.
Not just photos, notes too.
Yeah.
Remember we found that sheet of all the stuff he had written out on it.
And I don't want to say money hungry, but there was, anytime there's an estate and there's a lot of assets, other family members get excited about the proceeds. Yeah. So they were worried that everybody has an opinion on how you should handle the estate. So people were like, oh, why are they getting a car? Or, why don't you send them to auction? And I feel bad for Jody and Dave because they were kind of having to play middleman between us bitching, the auctioneer bitching, the family members bitching, and all this stuff. So as we were going through, we had the photos and the notes. So we had like the Schroll Coupe, the 32 Coupe. We had notes of like, sent Grill, gonna send Grill to get chromed. The 34, there was notes that he was sending that grill to get re-chromed and all this different stuff. And we had these old photos, so it was like, here's what the headlights and headlight stands should look like. And like those we found at his house property in the back of the yellow. I remember, I'll never forget, they were in the back of the yellow 35.6 pickup. In the bed of it, we found the headlights for the Schroll car, which was across town.
And we found other stuff in the house, too, in the basement for the Schroll car.
Garnish. Yeah, we found the chrome garnish molding for the Schroll car. And this was another thing that we sometimes doesn't work out as planned. They found it in like his bedroom, and they were in like the J.C. Penney shopping bags from the chromer, all wrapped up. All the garnish molding was re-chromed. Well, they were getting crap from other family members they were giving me all the stuff, which was the previous agreement, and they were throwing a fit about this particular chrome garnish molding.
And the only reason they threw a fit is because that family member was there helped pull some of that stuff, because in the basement of the house they had tables laid out for us to look at, and so one of the family members had found it and then came back to help another day and noticed it was gone.
And they were throwing a fit because they were like, well, I don't think they had moved them somewhere else in the house.
No, we took them.
But I paid them.
Yeah.
So they threw a fit after the fact. Yeah. But I said, these are the garnish molding. And I think they said, oh, well, we had already pulled these out for the, I think they knew that the other family member was going to be like upset because they were, pissed about the car or whatever was going on that I bought them. And they were like, and I'm like, I don't want to bid on parts for my car at auction. It's kind of fucked up that I got to like.
And we helped them with that too. We pulled, even for that 34, we put parts with that car that went with that 5 window.
And I could have easily been like, oh no, these are for my 34.
Yeah.
Like we put parts, we were pretty darn honest about all this stuff. And it's like, here's the photo. Like every time we found parts, we'd be, hey guys, we found like, so the garnish molding, I basically was like, all right, even though I paid you the money and the agreement was I get all the parts for my cars, we have a handwritten note that says he sent the garnish to get chromed in 64. I'll pay you money for this garnish molding on top of everything we've already done, because I just wanted to get them. And for me to pay a little bit more money, it was worth it, because it was it was a very important thing for the car, and I wanted to get them.
It was also funny. I was going and filming a lot of stuff for the estate because of my job and the hours that I worked. Matt obviously worked during the day. Yep. So I was going out, and I was even being a middleman between us and Jody, because I was going out very often to help film after we had already gotten the cars
that's right, because I got the garnish molding and you went to film and they were like having all these problems.
I was there. I picked the garnish molding and put it in the truck and took it and brought it back. And I was stuck in between of all this weirdness of all of it going on. And Jody was obviously stuck in the main middle of all of it.
Yeah. But yeah, so we pretty much then made a plan that we were going to, I was going to get those 2 cars. And we basically made this big plan that we were going to film. And in hindsight, it was probably too much for one day. I wish we would have slowed down.
It would have been better if we didn't have problems loading any of the vehicles. True. If all the vehicles would have loaded smoothly, it would have been totally fine. But we had some problems, which we'll talk about in another video. But if everything went perfectly, we would have been fine.
Yeah, so we made the plan, and that's probably where we'll leave this podcast off, is that we made a plan that basically, once they agreed to everything and like the dust settled and they were like, okay, yep, we're good, you'll get the cars, this and that, we'll write a contract. I said, hey, we'll write a contract that we're going to do this many videos and, all this stuff that we're going to guarantee we're going to help you with through the whole process. Because I think they were also worried that I was going to get my 2 cars, shoot one video, and then we were going to disappear into the, into the sunset. So we made a plan. It's like, we're going to film videos on the overall estate. We're going to looking at the cars. We're going to film us pulling the cars out that I'm getting. We're going to film this, that. Blah, blah. So it was like a lot of videos. So luckily we had some time to prepare, but it was like, that was our biggest one.
We shot 3 videos in one day.
Yeah.
No, 4 videos.
4 videos.
Because we did a separate video of the Schroll car, separate video of the Skelly car, right?
Yep, and then one for each property.
No. Those two cars were in the same video. The 32 and the 34 were all in one video.
Oh.
So we did 3 videos in one day. Each separate property, we did a video, and then we did one video of pulling both cars out. Because the thumbnail of that video is both cars on the trailer at the water
right.
tower.
Yeah, and
In the wintertime, so limited hours of daylight.
Yep.
And it was a lot.
Yeah, so it was pretty cool because we were like, once I was there at the estate, and as we were getting involved, they were also finding more stuff and finding out more things, and she's finding old photos and emailing or texting them to me, and it's just like, this is going to be crazy, and we lined it all up. And
I have to look. We also went, I'm pretty sure you, me, George, and Jason went to California for Grand National.
Mm-hmm.
We did Grand National, came home, and like the next weekend, we went and got those cars. Or was it or did we go to Grand National after?
We went to Grand National after, because the reason I remember is we went to Grand National, and I had gotten the 32 and the 34, and we went to the early Ford store, and the gentleman that started the early Ford store in Pomona, apologize, I forget his name, who passed away, he was there, and we happened to get a minute with him, and I thought he would enjoy it because those guys, I've said it before, I think I've said it before in other videos, like the early Ford store is really my inspiration for doing what we do. When I went there 10, 15, 20, I don't remember how many years ago, 15 years ago or so with Eastwood, first time I went to California, I got to stop at that store and saw that. So like, what he was doing, it was like, you're a hero, because you're like, you made this business pulling barn finds out and doing early Ford parts. So we stopped, and I remember showing him the car and be like, hey, we literally like last week just got this car, I thought you might dig it. And he looked at the photos like, oh man, that's really cool, like just sharing. I thought he would enjoy it, so like he looked at it, and I remember showing him the car, and he looked at it.
I forgot about that. Yeah, so
and then because we went there and COVID was just starting to happen while we were at Grand National.
That's right, yeah.
And then we got home, and it was like a week or two later, the fucking world shut down.
It was a month. It wasn't until March that the world shut down. But yeah, we were there in...
Oh, yeah, so it was like 3 weeks after or something.
I forgot. That's such... there was so much stuff going on that is a whirlwind. But that's wild. The high that you were probably on, but also me, bought 2 cars, and then like 3 days later, we get on a plane, fly to California, do a swap meet, do Grand National, and then come back.
It was also it was also difficult monetarily because I had been putting money aside to go to Turlock, and do this big swap meet and buy all this stuff, anticipating, and then I buy these cars, and I'm like, well, there's 90.
Oh, that same trip, we also went to Jeans and spent the night at Jeans too.
Holy crap, that was a crazy...
Like 2 weeks of I just remembered that was a trip. We filmed at Jeans and visited all these. Dude, that was a crazy 2 weeks.
It was.
Like the ultimate 2 weeks for a hot rodder. We did all this crazy shit.
Yeah, that was the dream. And that's when we're like, we need to do this full time.
Yeah,
this is like, if
awesome.
this was my world every day,
yeah,
I'll be very happy. So
in the next one, we'll cover going to the process of us getting the 2 cars, filming those videos.
Yep.
And then we'll probably do a third episode of just the remainder of the estate, because we filmed, I think, seven videos total of the whole estate, pulling out different vehicles and the auctions and that kind of stuff. So there's a lot to cover.
Yeah, just all the stuff we found like throughout the process of us, it was really cool because we don't get to do this with a lot of states where when we buy a bunch of stuff from a state, we either buy all of it or a lot of it, and we usually go there, get what we want, and we leave. And then the estate's got a year, weeks, months, years of cleaning up the estate.
Yeah.
And they sometimes find stuff afterwards that we wish we know, or they already found a bunch of stuff. So like this, we were like throughout a 6 or 8 month or year process.
We spent a lot of time just with the estate with Jody and Dave. We spent days on end at both estates pulling cars out. It was like built more of a rapport with the people, because instead of just being like showing up, shaking hands, giving them money, loading the box truck and be like, see ya, and then leaving. It was because of COVID, everything got delayed a bunch. So we spent a lot of time.
Right. Yeah. So we were doing some of the pulling out even kind of during COVID or.
Oh yeah, I was going out there and
Yeah.
filming during COVID and helping with all that stuff, and the auctions got pushed back like 6 months, I think.
Which was good for them because they ended up finding a lot more stuff and were able
Yeah.
to take their time and do all that. But we were like, it was just insane, and
Mm-hmm.
and honestly, the Skelly car is one of the things that helped push the channel for me to go full time because I was working for Eastwood, and I used to work from home some with Eastwood. I was one of the only people in the company that I could work from my home shop and do whatever. But like everybody went work from home at that point. So I was working from home all the time, and I kind of like talked to my bosses and the president of the company and was like, hey, I got this barn find car I just got. What if I start shooting videos every day? Or for my job, in between meetings and other responsibilities, I'll go out and work on that car and I'll shoot videos. And I became the Eastwood production team because the video guys that worked at for Eastwood at the time, they didn't really have garages or they weren't really set up to do work like I was or whatever, or have project cars. So like pretty much they were like, I was putting out the only content for Eastwood.
I remember if I'd come over and just like hang out or help in the shop, sometimes there'd be a Ziploc baggie taped to the garage door because they were keeping a social distance. There'd just be an SD card taped to the garage door. Be like, what's that for? It's like, the Eastwood guy's coming to pick up the card to edit the footage to put out a video. So at that point, you were shooting essentially 2 different videos on the same thing.
Yep.
Chopping it up differently for Eastwood and for us, because I was also sending Eastwood photos or video through Dropbox of stuff we were filming for them to edit as well. It was so much stuff going on then.
Yeah, and I was just like, I was putting the car in a row, but it would be like one I did for Eastwood that like killed it for them was like I just cleaned the bumpers with like steel wool. It was like the stupidest little video of like bringing back old chrome with steel wool and Windex, and it was like a dumb little video I shot for them that didn't really work on our channel, but like it got them a ton of views and it was helpful. But like the Skelly car really started getting the series of doing the Schroll videos and then putting the Skelly car on the road really helped propel the channel on top of the other cars we're already doing. And it was just like,
and we did a cool thing with that estate, which we should try to do if you've made it this far and you listening. If you enjoyed that, we did the premieres where we launched the video at like lunchtime, or it was like 11 o'clock for West Coast to be involved, where we did a premiere and there was a live chat. And I don't work there anymore, so I can say it, but I was working a Sunday shift. We put the videos out every Sunday for like 6 weeks straight, I think. I was working Sunday 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. So I would hide somewhere in the factory with my computer in one of our parts rooms where my toolbox was, get internet on the Wi-Fi, and I would be chatting with the people in the chat for the live premiere while I was at work getting paid. They'd be like, hey, such and such machine broke. I'd be like, I'll be there in 20 minutes. I'm doing something. Sit on the computer and chat back with everyone.
heck yeah.
So if you guys enjoyed those premiere things, we could do that in the future for other barn find videos or estates, that kind of stuff. They were fun.
Yeah, they were fun, and it was nice that we knew we were doing so many videos on those.
Yeah.
So like once we started putting them out, it was getting people hooked. And
We'll talk about the putting them out, because we didn't put the videos out for like 2.5 months after we got the cars. So there was some filming snafus where we couldn't show certain things in the shop because there was magically 2 new cars that we never talked about.
Oh yeah, that's right. That was very difficult, and I'm terrible at keeping a secret. So that was also hard.
Well, you didn't keep a secret. You posted about it on Instagram right afterwards.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, I did.
You also messed up when you were posting photos of it before we bought it.
Yeah, so that's the one. Before we leave, that we've done this episode. That's the one little last little snippet.
Minor potential fuck up.
So, and it's really tough with me. Everybody gets excited about stuff you're finding and you want to share.
One thing he doesn't do it as much anymore, but previously,
No, I don't
you could tell what we were going to buy because Matt would post photos of what we were going to buy, like reference photos. So like before we got the Skelly car for like 3 weeks, or no, of the Schroll car, it was like hard channeled 32.5 windows.
Old photos.
Just a shit ton of old photos. You're like, he doesn't own a 32.5 window, but all he's posting right now are like photos of 32.5
Yeah,
windows.
yeah,
I wonder
yeah.
what we're doing.
I don't really do that anymore. I'm too busy working anymore. To that.
Well, we've also learned it throws a potential wrench into plans.
So yeah, so I made the mistake like a day or 2 days before. It might have been the night before.
It was the night before.
I posted
or day before.
I posted a photo of the 32 as it's sitting in like a story or something on Instagram, and a guy that's in the same realm area of buying and selling early Fords and finding stuff, he sent me a message, was like, so you're buying that car or something or whatever, and it was kind of like he basically let me know that like they didn't think we were getting. He's like, oh, I know where that car is or whatever. It's down the street from me, and I thought you weren't getting those cars. I'm like, what? And then I put two and two together, and I said, oh, your buddy, because I knew he was friends with a guy that's in the same scene. I'm not going to put names out there, that owned an antique store, and was like, oh, your buddy was the anonymous
third party. Shit, I can't know.
Non-partial.
Yeah. Non-biased. Third party. Yeah.
Third party that was evaluating the cars.
The dude was also into what we do. So.
Yes, heavily.
Yes.
Very, very heavily. And that was those people were, and he was like, I thought you weren't getting them. I'm like, well, you're wrong, because we are. I'm going tomorrow, but let me guess. Your friend is the one that evaluated the cars. Yeah. He's friends with the auctioneer. I'm like, yeah, he told the family that they were not interested, not, just an antique dealer that's going to look at some old stuff. It's like, and they're like hardcore hot rodders. So, but I was like, oh shit, is he, because the family was very private and we didn't want people showing up. So the guy I was talking to, I didn't really know him that well. I knew who he was and we were in the same circle. So I was like, I didn't want him or other people showing up to the estate, like knowing that we were going to get it. So I was like freaking out that night. Like, I hope that they don't tell somebody to tell somebody. And I've done that a couple times over the years, making the mistake of even just mentioning to someone.
Yeah, we now know better you don't talk about it till you got it.
Did I say that in the 34?
We talked about that, yeah.
Yeah, that like a friend of a friend, and then the guy's like asking me to buy the cars at 34 State. So now anymore, I've tried to.
This is also why we get this question a million times.
Yeah.
Why don't we ask for help? This is why we don't ask for help.
Yeah, you're in my town or you're whatever, because like it just throws a wrench in it.
There's a vast majority of people that would not give a shit and would gladly just help us, but all you need is one person that knows about the stuff to totally ruin the deal, and then it's on a business aspect. It could really just mess it. I mean, we fly all the way out there.
Yeah.
Say we fly all the way out there, we have a box truck rental, and we're just sitting there and like, well, deal's off. This person's going to buy it now. So it's like, we just can't.
Yeah. So that was just it didn't, and nothing ended up happening, but it was just like me, like, you
I remember getting a text from you, like, I think I just fucked this all up.
I'm such a dumbass. Like, after all this stress with almost not getting the stuff and then getting, I'm like, why didn't I just wait till like the next day to post that we have it? But I was just so excited because it was my first 32, and and in the end, the family was happy that we got the stuff, because we actually, like I and I've talked about this a lot in videos. When I'm buying a car or stuff, I am extremely honest with the family of what we're doing with it. So this was one where I'm like, I want to put these cars on the road. I'm not saying that I'm going to keep them for the rest of my life, but you're going to see these cars get put on the road. The Schroll car, I still have. The Skelly car, I put on the road. I kept it for a while and actually tried to sell it to the family of the guy that built it, and they just ended up passing on it. But like, we didn't just flip them the next day, which is what a lot of people will tell the families, that they're going to keep it forever. They always wanted one. And like the Schroll car, I really don't have any interest in selling. I just enjoy driving it. It's a East Coast style 32. Yeah. It's so kick-ass. So like, I love that car. I can't say I'm going to keep it for the rest of my life, but like, I told them that we want to resurrect these cars and put them on the road, and they were able to watch the process during that and saw the cars on the road. I sent them photos, and it worked out really good.
Yeah.
So in the next podcast, where we do a video podcast, we will
not next Sunday, but the following Sunday.
We will discuss going to get the cars, all the fun stuff.
Yeah, we'll talk about getting the cars, filming those first 2 main videos, and then maybe the last podcast we'll talk about the remaining. We helped them pull some cars out and filmed some videos.
40 or 50 cars we pulled out with them.
We didn't help do all of them.
Most of them.
No, because remember at the end they did sell as is where is.
Oh, you're right. They did sell a bunch of. They pulled some of those cars out on their own though.
Yes, they did.
Because there was some of the 50s and 60s cars.
They did 2 auctions where we helped them pull the cars out and advertise, and then they had 1 auction, I think, that was just the remainder of the vehicles.
1 or 2 of them.
Yeah. I think it was 2 because they did one at the house garage.
Yep.
Sold the property, and then the second one was at the spring or wherever the garage was, and then that property as well.
Yeah. Yeah, there was so many. And actually, I didn't end up going to the...
We didn't. Neither of us went to the last 2, yeah.
Yeah, I was more just trying to be good. I was like, I don't need to buy any more cars.
Yeah,
Don't need to
and
buy
from what we heard, there was some stuff that went for like mega steal. Some of the 50s cars went for real cheap.
But then I heard some of those cars went for, like, I think the Cadillac went for pretty darn good money, and that was one of the cars I was kind of interested in. I was relieved when I heard it went for basically like retail, and I was like, okay.
But if you haven't watched the Schroll series, I believe there's an entire playlist of the Schroll estate that covers all the stuff we did with them. It's a cool series. There's a lot of neat stuff. It was a lot of fun. Stay tuned to the next podcast. We'll sit down and some more story time of the Schroll estate.
Yeah, this is fun jogging my brain. I'm going to have to watch some of the videos again just to remind
This is probably the only estate we're ever going to do that's multiple podcasts because it was just so much involved.
For now.
For now, definitely.
In the future, there's probably going
that's
to
true.
be. But that's it. So thank you guys for following along. Hope we enjoyed a little bit of our story time and some of the visuals of a fun estate and finding neat old cars. And make sure you hit the subscribe button and for any of the podcast stuff, definitely want to get notified when we're putting these up every week. So thank you guys. Appreciate it. Catch you later.